Hello, everybody. Hi. Welcome to our talk for today. If you've been a part of the movement challenge in January, I've missed you guys this week and just seeing your daily check-ins. So this is my way of staying in touch with you guys to hop on and have a conversation. So I'm going to wait for a few people to join in and then we'll get started. Hey, welcome. I would have some music like the DJ situation, but I need my phone. I'm on Zoom and I'm on Facebook. So we'll just have to wait for some other people to join in first, give it a few minutes, and then we'll dive in. Today we're talking about diet culture. So I look forward to educating, and really, y'all, this is kind of informal, just to have a conversation. And this really sparked from some of the questions that I got when we were doing the movement challenge, some different questions and things. Thank you. So I just wanted to give this opportunity for us to have a more specific dialogue around diet culture and unlearning some things that we don't even really realize that we know. So that's the premise of today. And this is part one of a 4-part conversation. So we won't get to everything today, but we will get the conversation going today. Hello, welcome. I hope y'all have, some of you, I know I've gotten questions, and if your questions aren't answered today, they will be answered at some point. Whether it be through dialogue, something I say, or just answering it directly, I will definitely be sure to do that. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes for anybody who's trying to hop on, and then we'll go. Thanks for saying hey. I never know who's on here. Oh, hey, everybody's here. It's a little reunion. So I will start. I'll go ahead and start and introduce myself. If you're watching from, if you're watching from my Facebook group, then you may already know me, or you may not, because there's been a lot of new engagement on my Facebook group. If you're joining from Zoom, hey, and good to see you. Thanks for joining this call. And basically, my name is Kristen. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and a personal trainer and a women's fitness specialist based out of the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And so the heart behind what I do through my business, B3, is to try and help bridge the gap between mental and physical health in every sense of the word. And so I want to tell you guys a little bit about, let me start with, and so the clients that I work with are mostly women of color who are struggling to create a sustainable lifestyle, whether that be because of schedules, whether that's, expectations of them elsewhere, stress, not knowing where to start, that sort of thing. That's really kind of the type of person that I work with. And my whole idea is starting with something that's small and realistic. So many times there's a lot of trainers who are advertising extreme weight loss, going hard in the gym from the beginning. If you're not sore, you're not working. And I really just have a different approach to that. So that's the type of client that I work with. But the reason why the topic of diet culture has come up recently for me is that I could not figure out why the premise of what I wanted to give people as far as mental and physical health being for your mental health and vice versa, I couldn't understand why my message was being missed by people, or it was being it was being confused with other messages. And I was being asked, do you have waist trainers? Do you have booty bands? Do you prescribe meal plans? And every time I'm like, no, I don't do that. And I just really was like, how can I separate what I do from what is coming at me? You know what I mean? People asking do I have a detox plan? Do I have anything of the sort? And every time I would say no, and every time I would feel like, wow, I'm missing out on helping these people because I don't offer what they want. And so that's where the topic of diet culture came in, because that's essentially what has been in the way. And I think it's something that a lot of us as women struggle with around what diet culture is and how it impacts our journey to wellness. So this is just a really informal conversation. So I welcome you guys to drop questions or just share. A few times I'll, say just kind of share your experience on certain things to make this more of a conversation and not a lecture, because that's not what this is for. So, all right. So let's talk about what is diet culture. So I have been learning a lot, and I've been looking around in a lot of spaces for information, and really the best summary I can give for what diet culture is this general idea that being smaller or less of whatever is just better. It's better than whatever else the other options might be. That's the best way that I can really summarize it in just like one little sound bite, is that being thinner, being fitter, fitting in smaller pants, eating less sugar, less fat, less carbs, all of that means that you are a better person and that you are healthier than the next person. And that could come across to us in a multitude of ways, whether that be through marketing, through social media, through movies, through any media source. It can really come to us through those things. And so I did a poll on my Instagram probably last week, and I asked everyone, who do you think influenced your relationship with food and just diet in general? And 38% of those people said that it was their family. And I was just wowed by that, because we don't often think of our family being like the center of diet culture. But when you think about it, we're all within an overarching system of things that are being communicated to us. And so, and the second one on that was 30% myself. So a lot of people said their family, and then a bigger group, a smaller group said themselves. I would argue that even people who think that they came up with their own way of looking at diets and food and body, it was probably influenced by their family at some point, whether they own it for themselves now or not. I'm going to pull up the other poll that I did in my group was, when did you guys first have your first diet? And so whether you answered in the poll or not, if you would just drop in the chat, how old were you when you first tried a diet? And I'm going to leave that up to you as to what that means. People are like, well, does that count as a diet? Does that count as a diet? Leave that totally up to you. When would you say, what age were you when you first started dieting? Anybody wanna? I know I'll have a delay in when I see things, but don't be afraid. We're all in here. Pretty much everybody who's answered in the group, has been on one. There's not any, I never have answers yet. So what age were you when you first started to diet? Okay. I think I might have been 16 or 17, actually. Okay, early 20s. Very influential ages though, right? 14, early 20s, 18 plus, 17. That's when our brains aren't even developed to even know what in the world is happening, right? And we're already trying to change the way we look and the way we feel. So thank you all for answering that. 18, okay. And so another principle of diet culture, one we talked about, thinner is better, smaller is better, less is better. But also this notion that you should pursue, diet culture also says that you should pursue being smaller and being healthier by any means necessary. So that means drinking a gallon of water, even if that's not what your body really needs, even if it really is painful for you to chug that much water every day, doing it anyway. That means eating a 1,200 calorie diet, 1,500 calorie diet, doing liquid diets, elimination diets, even arguably intermittent fasting is really another diet, to be honest with you, because it's a way of restricting what you eat in order to control the way your body looks. And I think that's another aspect of diet culture that a lot of people miss, is that The folks that are behind diet culture, and I'll say they, you know, because it's not any one person, they are trying to market something to you. They want you to subscribe to something that's going to make them money, that's going to keep you coming back, which is why we end up yo-yo dieting and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And so they're going to market it to you as if it's going to work and as if it's the very diet that you need. So let's think of keto. Keto is really popular right now. Intermittent fasting is very popular right now, right? But keto is the old Atkins, right? And then there's probably an older version of intermittent fasting that I can't name right now. And it's all being repackaged just so that you will buy into it, buy the book, and buy whatever else marketing type stuff that there is and products that there is to buy. So that's something to be very mindful of when it's like, how am I pursuing my health and wellness? Am I becoming victim to quick fixes, tips and tricks that really aren't sustainable? Am I damaging my body in order to get to it? And is it actually working? Does it actually work for weight loss? There are a lot of dietitians and research out there that will say that extreme weight loss plans do not work. So even if someone drops an extreme amount of weight in a year, and I'm not saying that there's not a Mediterranean. Yep, Mediterranean is another popular one. I'll come back to that, but where was I going? Extreme weight loss diets, even if they do work for a short period of time, it's about the sustainability of them, and it's about what your body can handle over a period of time. And so it's problematic sometimes to say that diets don't work, but essentially research shows that diets and the ways that we pursue them as a whole do not work. And most people gain that weight back within a 2 to 5 year period. If they sustain it for that long, they usually gain it back in some sort of way because it's not sustainable. Now we'll get to at another talk, you know, what are the ways that you lose weight then? Like, you're meaning I have to just stay this weight forever? No, it's just about understanding your motives and your method for doing what you're doing. Someone mentioned a Mediterranean is a popular one. Yeah. And again, y'all, it's not that anything is, some of the principles behind some of these diets are, come from somewhere, but it's about, are you on the Mediterranean diet because you enjoy Mediterranean dishes and the seasonings and it's filling for you and it makes you feel better and you enjoy cooking it? Or are you pursuing the Mediterranean diet because you want to lose weight because someone told you that they lost 50 pounds on the Mediterranean diet? That's the difference. Mediterranean food is a whole thing, right? So there's nothing wrong with the types of food. It's about how are you choosing to use it and how is it being marketed to you. The weight loss, extreme weight loss, that's a little known fact, and I think that's on purpose, that we don't know that extreme weight loss typically doesn't last. So what does this sound like? Let's think about some things that, and I would encourage you guys to drop it in the chat, what it sounds like for you guys to be a part of diet culture. What comes to mind when you think of diet culture? The first thing that comes to mind for me is nothing tastes as good as being skinny feels. Now, if that's not diet culture wrapped up in a bow, then I don't know what is, but that's the exact premise of it, that it doesn't matter what other desires, what other needs, what other nutrients you may need, none of that is as good as being smaller feels. Think about the impact of that statement on teenage girls, young women, even us as adults, you know, to think that, wow, there's nothing in this world that is better than being smaller. And then what does that say about you when you can't get as small as smaller may be? Because smaller is really vague in general. And so it's about, wow, what does that do to my self-esteem? What does that do to my ability to stick to my own plan if I'm believing that nothing is as good as how skinny feels? So drop in the chat some other ones. I did jot down a few more. No pain, no gain is another diet culture one. Putting a skinny woman's picture on the fridge. Yes. Putting like inspo, fit inspo or thinspo, they used to call it back in the day. You know, decorating your room or whatever with these skinny pictures or fit pictures, because I do think that the fit body is in ways replacing, not even replacing, but joining the skinny body conversation. At least in my experience as a fitness professional, of having a six pack and being muscular and having zero body fat and all this kind of stuff. And so, yes, that's another example of one. Let's see, labeling foods as good or bad. Like, oh, I did really bad today. I ate this and I ate that. And I had a pretty good day. I ate really good. Well, what does good mean? Well, I ate lettuce and I drank water. Well, that would be diet culture if that's what good means. And if bad means eating anything else, then that would be the case. The notion of trying more than one until you get to the desired results. But this declaration, hold on, I have to read that. Let's see. Yeah, the idea that there's a way for you to have this extreme experience of results. You just haven't found the right one yet. There's something wrong with you. That's a great point. The idea that if a quick fix diet doesn't work for you, then that means there's something wrong with you. You just need to keep searching. Not that the actual system of dieting is broken and wrong, but that there's really something wrong with you and you just need to keep searching. So if keto doesn't work, that doesn't mean that you don't still need to lose 100 pounds. That means that you need to try Weight Watchers, right? Okay, so that's kind of the notion, is jumping and back and forth from different diets to find what works. I would also say here's some ones that that people don't always think about. Meal replacements. That is pretty much a factor of diet culture. If you want to have a smoothie for breakfast, that's okay. But if you're replacing lunch and dinner with smoothies, that would be a part of diet culture and an extreme weight loss tactic for sure. Because the idea behind that is to restrict your calories to such a level that you would lose weight unrealistically. Let's see, cheat days, having cheat days and cheat meals. I don't even really talk about cheat days and cheat meals personally, because how does that sound? If I'm cheating when I'm having anything other than what's on this strict plan, I'm going to feel bad. I would feel bad about cheating and lying and getting away with something. So that's already eliciting negative emotions in myself, to have this secret meal that I get to have when I do a good job one day a week, and then I have to restrict the rest of the week, and then I get to cheat again and then come back. It's like, what kind of quality of life is that, to say that that you can only have cheat days and cheat meals after you've done a certain amount of restricting? Don't eat after 7 or 8 p.m. That is a big one. That's a debate in the health and wellness community. It really is, around should you eat after a certain time? Should you not eat after a certain time? And that is something I see a lot on social media, and it really is not true. It's just not true that you can't eat after 7 or 8 p.m. There's so many other factors that go into that. And if your body's hungry, then you should feed it. You should feed it. So another suggestion, bonding with other women by shaming ourselves for eating. Yes, like, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm just so fat. Oh gosh, let's go get fat and eat Mexican. Yes, that language, bonding together over stuffing our faces. Let's just stuff our faces together and just be fat. Like, that kind of language is so shameful about the size of your body or anybody else's body. And it's sending a negative message around what it is that you're engaging in. So any questions as we're going through this, you guys, about just different examples? I love the examples. I can't think of them all. But I think that that's an important, those are some important ones to name. For me as a trainer, I would also like to say that there are ways that exercise is being used in diet culture. And so I hate that, because food is good for us. Movement and exercise is good for us. But I almost can't even say the word exercise or fitness without it being associated with these extreme ideals, and it's triggering for folks. And so even I have changed my language a little bit, just to meet people halfway with movement and something softer that doesn't have such a negative connotation with it. But exercise is is healthy to engage in. Moving your body is healthy. Whatever association we have with that word, that is a diet culture issue. That is not a definition of the word issue. That's a diet culture issue. And so we just have to be aware of that and start to change that narrative. But when it comes to exercise, there are a lot of people who use exercise in a way that contributes to diet culture. For example, exercising and having on your Apple Watch like how many calories you burned. I burned 491 calories, so that means that I can have 491 calories of this food when I go home because I've burned my calories for the day. That would be an example of using exercise in a negative way. Or it could be burning off, like, oh, I had such a weekend of just eating whatever I wanted to. I had a bad weekend, and so now I've got to go super hard in the gym. It's like, not necessarily. Sometimes you just need to regroup on nutrient-dense foods and get back into whatever routine supports your health and well-being. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to use exercise as a tool, to negate what you've eaten at any point in time. And so let's see, bonding with, I've had to deal with microaggressions while getting medical care. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure the context for that one, but that's definitely a thing. I think we'll talk about that more in the body image conversation around how larger bodies and smaller bodies are seen both from ourselves and by other people, and the characteristics that are attributed to those different experiences. Yeah, that's absolutely a diet culture comment. Yes, ooh, that's harmful. And think about how one little comment like that someone doesn't even really think about how impactful that can be for someone ongoing, to go to a medical professional and have your weight commented on in that sort of way. That's really irrelevant to the nature of your appointment, and just really being able to work through that so that it doesn't register in a negative way, for sure. So any questions at this point, you guys, about just now that I'm talking about and we're naming like what diet culture is and how it's showing up? Any particular questions you have for me about how it's showing up or anything? So let's talk about, I'll watch for other questions, but let's talk about how this is showing up in our own health and wellness journey. And I'll tell you something that happened when I started the movement challenge is that I noticed that the heart behind the scale, the scale in general. I did a post in March about throwing the scale away, and that was the best video I've done all year long. Is just getting rid of it, because again, measuring yourself by numbers and measurements is just really missing the bigger picture of what it means to be a healthy person. And small, medium, large bodies, whatever the case may be, really is not a consistent indicator of what's happening for them internally. And so you'll often hear people say that, oh, you're skinny, you don't need to work out, or you can have that because you're skinny. It's like, no, that's not necessarily the case on either end of the spectrum. It's about what is fueling your body adequately and what makes you feel good and what is functioning well for you internally. So I'm going to read these questions out loud because I think we'll all have some of the similar questions. So Brandy says, how can you engage in healthy habits without falling into diet culture? How can we begin to shift our mindset from this diet culture way of thinking? How to not let it affect you negatively? Okay, yeah, I will read them out. So Brandy says, how can you engage in healthy habits without falling into diet culture? I think that, for one, it's knowing that because we're so entrenched in diet culture, know that this isn't going to be I have information and then now I'm just free of it and I never struggle with it again, and I and I'm done with it. Know that this is something that is going to be an ongoing battle. It could take years. It could take months, weeks, years to really get to a place where you are in a healthy place with it. One thing that I will say is that to understand that diet culture will shows up on both ends of the spectrum. So sometimes we can become so hyper focused and consumed with the numbers and workouts, and we're obsessing over calories and that sort of thing, and that's the way diet culture shows up. Or diet culture can completely turn us off from having a health and wellness lifestyle for ourselves. And so I think it's important to know that, hey, not only is it going to affect me on this side of the spectrum, but it could also send my pendulum all the way to the other side, to where I'm almost now getting in my own way about things that would normally be helpful to me. So for example, if I had named the movement challenge that we just did, if I had named it the exercise challenge, I don't think as many people would have signed up, because the word exercise makes people want to run the other way. You know what I mean? Or if it was like, I don't know, maybe it would have fit into diet culture and more people would have signed up. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's like it could have eventually, just the term, when there's really nothing wrong with that term, it's what diet culture has done to that term that is making it problematic. And so knowing that for ourselves, and knowing that we have the power to decide that I'm unsubscribing from it. It doesn't have the same definition for me anymore. Yes, I can do this, and it doesn't have to mean that I'm trying to lose 50 pounds. I can do this. I can eat this way. I can decide, and it doesn't have to mean what society tells me it's going to mean. Jessica says, how can we begin to shift our mindset from this diet culture way of thinking? I think what's most important with that is catching yourself. Okay. So if you find yourself thinking in an all or nothing realm, where you're either all the way in on some diet, or you're all the way out, or you're labeling, these are my good foods and these are my bad foods, or you're experiencing a lot of shame around having sweets or having carbs, the bad carbs, quote unquote, that people tell us about. Those are some ways you can catch yourself. And instead of allowing the rules to impact you, sometimes it may be resisting the urge to follow the rules, and exploring what that's like. So, for example, a rule might be that, oh, you can't have 2 cheat meals in 1 week. Okay, so if I find myself debating or avoiding going out for a, social outing because this is going to be my second cheat meal, my mindset is in diet culture, okay? And so I have the choice in that moment. Am I going to let that determine whether I go and experience a fun time with my friends, or am I going to push back on that idea and these rules and allow myself to live a little bit? And what we find is that when the less restrictive we are and the more aware we are, the more we're able to make decisions where we don't completely binge or overdo it when we get those opportunities to enjoy a nice meal, or, whatever the situation may be. It's the restriction that makes you feel like once I have it, it's all bets are off and I'm all in and I'll never get myself out of it. And so I would say the mindset is just knowing what it sounds like. Okay. And I think I wrote down some others. Let me see. If you catch yourself not eating all day, some of the things that we've mentioned, avoiding eating all day or not eating after 8 p.m., that's a diet culture mindset. And so every time you catch yourself doing that, realize, hey, I'm trying to work on not doing that. Maybe if I'm hungry, I'll listen to my body and do it that way. How can we not let diet culture affect us negatively? I think we've talked about that, from some of the other questions, but what I'll say is that unfortunately, just like other systems that, there's primarily women of color on this video, but like as far as other systems that we are up against, it's not something that we're going to necessarily be able to say, oh, it just doesn't apply to me anymore. I'm not affected by it anymore. We live in a society that's going to perpetuate that. And so I think that just realizing that it's something that I'm going to have to manage and work with is the option. And then also having conversations like this, where you're exposing yourself to people who have a different way of doing things. You know what I mean? For me, it's been transformational for me to add variety to the types of people I follow on Instagram. I have a lot of trainer friends, and, because we're in the same field, or I have a lot of like athlete friends from college and all that kind of stuff. And I've intentionally gone out and found other accounts that have a different message, that have a message of eating nutrient dense foods because they're good for you, and not necessarily keeping your calories to 1500 so that you can lose weight, or showing the little pose with their six-pack to the side. Like, I follow some health and wellness accounts that don't do that. And I also have limited the amount of before and after accounts. I actually don't follow any before and after accounts. I really just don't like them. So if you find that something is triggering you to go back to old behaviors that you're trying to do away with, you might want to see about taking a break from it and exposing yourself to something else. I struggle with consistency. How can you work toward this? We will talk about consistency a little bit more on the last talk that we're going to have. That's the last Thursday of the month. We'll talk about changing habits and being consistent. But I think I had to start with diet culture because I feel like we just want to know, what's the rule? What's the rule that I need to follow? And then can I follow it all the time? And then if I do that, then I'll be okay. And we're so used to doing that, and we're not used to trusting our own bodies and listening to what our bodies want to do. It's only been, I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I want to say the first fitness gyms and fast food and just all of the different stuff that like modern America has going on has only been within like since the 1950s, 1940s. I think the first fitness club was 1930s, 1940s, and that was for the, elite white people to have, and then, it trickled down. But it's like, we didn't need all of this tell me how to do this type stuff. That's being fed to us. Like, you don't know how to keep yourself well. Here's this product that's going to help you do it, and you need to follow it. And if you don't, you're a failure. And so my approach to consistency is to get in touch with your body more, get in touch with what is enjoyable to you more, and focus on doing those things in community. I would suggest doing that in community. This was helpful. Thank you. I'm glad. Amen on the before and after account. Such a trigger for me. Yeah, you guys, you have to really, I'm glad for Jakia for your question about how do you keep it from affecting you negatively. You got to know that anything that's eliciting shame and guilt out of you is unhealthy. So if you follow me on Instagram, if you follow anybody on Instagram and they make you feel worse about yourself after you look at the photos, one, I would suggest perhaps unfollowing, depending on who it is. Two, I would suggest, looking inward to see what's being triggered in you and how you can change your mindset around what you're seeing, because not everybody is looking to compete with you. But those before and after accounts, like if it's literally all they do is say, I was this way and I was this amount of weight, and then look what I did in no time flat, in a year and some change, I transform my life, everything's better, I do this and I do that, and I'm never going back. And that makes you feel shame about where you are. It's time to reconsider some things about who you follow, for sure. How does diet culture factor into our sense of self-worth? So I think that the notion of diet culture in itself is that the way you are is not okay. Okay, so when we go back to the definition being thinner is better, less is better, how many of us actually fit into that definition in general? Not many. And to take this thing a step further, when it comes to white privilege, white supremacy, there's really a lot that goes into the idea that diet culture is not even really, diet culture was not created for us to be able to subscribe to it. You know what I mean? It really wasn't. It was meant for elite people to keep themselves elite. And so being thin and being, was a way of separating yourself from people who weren't. And then negative characteristics got painted on the larger body types for being lazy and unhealthy, and being thin meant that you had it together and that you were of privilege and all this kind of stuff. And so first and foremost, diet culture was not meant to work for anybody on this chat. And so that absolutely will affect your self-worth, because when you realize that something's not meant for you or that you can't achieve something, you immediately internalize it and think that something is wrong with you. And diet culture would agree with that. They would say, yeah, you just don't have the discipline. You just need to try a little bit harder. I guess you're just not ready. I guess you're just not motivated enough. You just need to wear the waist trainer a little bit longer and work out for 2 hours a day instead of 1 hour a day, you know? And so it's never enough because the standards are too high and unrealistic. Rosa says, I've deleted people because of that. Shame kills motivation. Brandy says, my first diet came from trying to be like my white classmates. Whew, y'all, that topic, I mean, I'm going to have more of these conversations, but sometimes you just got to work through the realness for yourself before you go and start. But there's something to that for sure, of what it means to be good enough in our society and the ways in which we go about trying to be equal with people who have essentially been set up to never allow us to be equal with them, you know, and the ways in which perfectionism and achieving a certain body size and eating a certain way, I mean, the way that it's all happened, I mean, it really is deep. I think this conversation was just to get some things started. Let's see. Vanita says, or the people that exercise every single day and post the pics every single day. Like, really, 365. It's tiring just to see those posts. I nicely delete. Yes. Something that's helped me. It depends. Follow people who have the same motives and the same interests as you. Okay. There's all kinds of fitness people out there. It's just that Instagram's algorithms are set up to show you the booty fitness people. Okay. So you got to know that. You got to know that just like anything else is mainstream, you have to go and look for yourself and what you need out of what's being provided. And I may drop some, you know, if you're not following me, follow me, but I'll drop some other social media accounts in there that you guys can follow. And so I think that's a way of doing it. But you've also got to know that social media and media in general are marketing platforms. So there's some of us that are on their booty fitness people, whatever you call them. Y'all, if y'all go to the my Explore page, I guess because I'm a fitness person, they just think I want to see every butt workout that's ever been created, and I just really don't. So yes, the booty fitness people. But if you exercising every single day, you have to know that those people are trying to market. And so on the flip side of posting out of enjoyment, there's this whole other like push for business owners, fitness professionals to post every day, because that's how you get engagement and that's how you get clients. Now, what they choose to post is up to them, but those workouts aren't happening every day. Okay. Those workouts are not happening every day. And I'll throw my own self under the bus. I record a lot of workouts when I'm filming things to have along the way. So a lot of the workouts that I post didn't actually happen that day. They've been posted to be saved as an idea for you guys, but that is not to be like, dang, Kristen's working out, you know, again and again and again. And even if I was, that's my own personal journey. You know, everybody is on their own personal journey to fitness. And so what's normal for me will not be normal for the next person. And it depends on your, you know, what you have going on as to what's healthy for you anyway. Postpartum, Kobe needs to hear this. Absolutely. Y'all, I can't tell you how many moms, you know, ooh, you know what? We're going to be on here. Okay. This is supposed to be 30 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. But another aspect of diet culture for moms, I think, and y'all let me know what you think, there is this whole thing about the snapback life. Like, oh my gosh, I had a baby last week and look at me, I have snapped back. Can you tell? Can you see it? Do you see where? And it's like, oh, the idea that you can't even tell I brought a whole human being into the world last week is something to be aspired to. Even so much that women will feel the need to work out while they're pregnant. And I want to be careful with this because I do know that that's a positive thing to stay active while you're pregnant. It helps with pushing and just whatever. It helps with all that. But some people do it just so that they don't gain the weight, just so that they can be skinny or smaller after they have the baby and like snap back. Like some people are like, oh no, I'm not letting this baby get in the way of me looking cute in 10 months. And so I'm going to intentionally work out, not because it makes me feel good, not because I want to be able to make it up the stairs, not because I don't want to have back pain, but because I want to be able to show out and prove that I'm good enough because I was able to do it. And so I just want to normalize what you guys are experiencing, but also give you all hope that there is a way to pursue goals, even goals for weight loss, without being in the trenches of diet culture. Okay, so just know that diet culture is coming from every different side, and you really just have to be aware of what your motives are. Okay, if losing some weight is going to help me function better physically as a person, that's different than me losing weight because I want to feel better, or I want to seem better, or like feel better about myself. You know what I mean? That I feel like it's going to give me self-esteem, or because I'm ashamed of how I look. Two different motives, the same goal kind of, but two different motives for that goal. Even the medical field feeds into this. My OB told me to lose 16 pounds during my second trimester. Wow, that was Kobe saying that. Kobe, if you don't mind to give they told you to lose weight just so that you wouldn't have so much to lose afterwards. Was that the premise behind that? That's weird. That's awful, by the way. 3 kids later, and I finally stopped blaming my kids. Shoot, more like a piece of fat back for me. 3 kids. I'm not sure what that one was for. So unrealistic. I did that. Exercise while pregnant, trying to be accepted and prove I'm more than just a mom after. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so sad. It's so sad because you guys as moms have done so much already. So much hard work for it to then still not be enough unless you can pretend like it didn't happen. It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, wow. So if you're not able to read the comments, Kobe, I hope you're fine with me saying this. Kobe said that her OB told her that she needed to lose 16 pounds during her second trimester because she was overweight based on the BMI. Wow. I don't even know what to say that. Wow. That is crazy. That is crazy. And we could have Brandy's beating me to it. Brandy says the BMI is based on white European men in the 60s or something. Yes, the BMI again is not was not made. As we're realizing, a lot of things were not created with a variety of body types and lifestyles and cultures, and it was not taking any of that into consideration. Me personally, I've always been overweight based on the BMI, always. So, are there any other questions you guys have? I wanted to keep this short because I'll be back next week and we'll be talking about body image specifically. And so some things I want to talk about is just how so much of our self-worth is wrapped up in how we look, and the ways in which we might be shaming ourselves around our bodies, and some ways that you can start to undo that. Something that I'll leave as a little nugget going into that I had to realize is that body checking a lot is a body image issue. So sometimes people body check because seeing their body be a certain size makes them feel less anxious, makes them feel like they're in control, like, okay, I'm doing okay. If I look on the scale or if I look in the mirror and I see something that's not necessarily what I want, then I feel more anxious, I feel more out of control. And so I want to, continue to body check until I get the look that I want, because that soothes me. And that's where the mental health aspect of it comes in. So we're going to talk about body image next week. Give me all of your questions in the group. You can email them to me. Some of you have already kind of done it through the sign up. And that's what we will talk about. But any final questions about this side of things? And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. about this and how it affects us. But this was a great conversation. Thank y'all for engaging and giving me some things to go off of that would resonate with you personally. You're very welcome. Very welcome. So some tangible ways. I know that some people were asking, okay, so now what do I do about this? You know, you giving me all this stuff. What do I do? And it's like, aha, that's what people say. They want to know the quick fix to undoing something. And honestly, it takes a while to get to where it doesn't, to where you're understanding it in a way that's not overtaking you. And so let me pull up a few things that I would say you could start doing now. It's just over the next week, pay attention to your own behaviors. Okay, so many times we're on autopilot and we're following rules that we don't even know why we're following rules. For example, if you're drinking a gallon of water a day, that would be my first question. I'm not saying that a gallon a day isn't recommended for some people, depending on what you have going on, but there's like this notion that a gallon a day is what is needed for everybody, and that is just not true. So that would be an example of a behavior that I could become aware of and think about, like, why am I doing that? Who told me that I needed a gallon of water? You know, me as a 6-foot person on a day that I work out would need a gallon of water. One, because I have more body mass to hydrate, and then two, because I've been sweating and whatever else during my workout, and so I have to replenish that. But someone who's 5 foot tall and hasn't worked out for the day doesn't need a gallon of water. Their body mass is different to stay hydrated, and they haven't used any additional, they're not dehydrated in any way from working out, and so there's really no need. But if you ask 2 people in those profiles, they would say gallon a day across the board most of the time. Post-surgery exercise, levels of intensity. I am just swaying and dancing in small moves. I'm hoping this is okay. I would take it very slow because I know your situation personally, Rosa. I know that you had surgery maybe just over a week ago. So I would say take it slow, and just also, what's the rush? It'd be not that there has to be a certain answer to it, but just a question to reflect on is what's the rush? What am I rushing to? What do I feel like I'm missing out on? So thank you guys so much. I love these. Y'all know I wanted to be Oprah when I was little. So, I mean, I'm just saying. I wanted to be Oprah and Sally and Jenny Jones and Ricky Lake, and I wanted to do all of that. So this was fun for me. I hope it was helpful for you guys. Feel free to use me as a resource and ask questions. I love this conversation because it's really helping me understand how I can reach the women that I'm trying to help better. And I got to address this first to really get to the idea that movement is good for you. It's not to be shamed. And so thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll be back next Thursday, 8 p.m., where we're talking about body image, brand new questions to go off of, and have more dialogue around. So stay in touch here in the group, and I will see you guys on video at least next Thursday. Okay? Bye, y'all.